Hello and welcome to Bespoke Unit. My name is Paul Anthony.
And I'm CP.
And today we're going to show you how to cut a cigar. If you're in a rush, see the link above me because we've got a super quick guide on how to do the perfect cigar cut. So guys, if you're here for the long haul and you really want to explore how to cut cigars, we've got everything from the guillotine straight cut, the punch cut, the V cut, and we're going to also talk about some other methodologies that maybe are not ideal, such as using your teeth, a match, a pocket knife, etc. So, but let's get started.
When you're in a pinch.
When you're in an absolute pinch, you could really pinch it off the top. But we're going to go with if you have the correct tools in the arsenal. So, you know, here we have a nice selection on the table of a couple of desktop ones. All of these will be in the links below for where to buy. We have this Calibri Quasar, which has a guillotine cut as well as a V cut. We have this desktop one here, which has different ring gauges. And then we go, I mean, most of you guys are going to have actually been introduced to probably these first. I mean,
this is the standard, isn't it?
Yeah, the kind of plastic
guillotine
ones that you get effectively for free or a couple of dollars at a cigar lounge, but they're pretty flimsy. They definitely do the job, but you know, as budding cigar aficionados and you know, people that want to potentially, you know, step up their cigar game, it's very stiff. It's you know, sometimes you can risk like just squishing the cigar as opposed to cutting it. But that's probably where most of you guys have started, so that's good to have on the table and show you. And then we step up to some of the better known brands such as Cigar and Calibri, and then, you know, we even have the Cigar scissors, which is actually my preferred method of cutting a cigar now. I just feel like there's a higher degree of precision.
Oh yeah, these are fantastic. They're very precise, but they are quite difficult to master. They also come with a number of other little handy tools in the back of the finger holes, which you can use for things like opening bottles or even as a cigar poke if you've got a tight drawer. So they're very handy and quite a premium choice. Definitely one of the best out.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get started. I think the number one that we should do is probably the straight guillotine cut.
Yeah, that's the standard.
This is definitely the most popular. So Charles, take it away. We have a Davidoff late hour here. Pick your weapon of choice. Maybe the I mean, maybe you want to explain actually where you want to cut the cigar.
A very important thing to remember is that cutting a cigar can make or break the smoking experience. So always take great care in doing this. Don't be indecisive though, don't be too hesitant, because that's also a recipe for disaster. As you'll see right here, there is, or you may see, or you may not, there is something called a cap. That is a bit of wrapper leaf which is stuck at the top. If you cut anywhere below this, you risk unraveling the wrapper and it'll just fall to pieces as you smoke it. Instead, you want to cut above it, and I'm going to display with these scissors right here or here, but nothing lower. Also, the height that you cut, that will change the draw on the cigar. The lower it is, the fuller draw you get. The higher it is, the tighter the draw. So there is some personalization available.
So Charles, do you want to maybe use those scissors and show us how it's done?
I will show those scissors. Okay. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to like this, and we're going to first moisten the head. That doesn't mean like lick it all over and make out with it. Just put it in your mouth a little bit and let some humidity be sucked into the cap. Like so. This will make it less brittle and easier to cut. It's not going to crush under your scissors, it's not going to fall to pieces, it's not going to take a chunk of flag leaf off, which is the cap, and then unravel in the process. I
mean, I think that's a personal preference though, because I know in the US a lot of cigar bars will offer to cut your cigar for you, and there's not a guy out back licking the top of cigars. So
this is just for me a personal thing that I like to do, and a lot of people swear by it. Some people feel it's unnecessary if the cigars are properly stored. I like to err on the side of caution, because there's nothing worse than a bad cut of a cigar and it unraveling while you're enjoying your smoke. So
it is a nice little insurance policy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So just to let you guys kind of be aware of that.
So I'm here right above the cap. I have a little bit of flag leaf visible, and snip. There we go.
And the really nice thing about scissors is it gives you a lot of control, a lot of visual control over being able to kind of touch up an edge if it is a little bit scruffy.
So say here it's a little bit bumpy, I could just snip away here and take a little bit off to make it perfectly flat. But I'm not going to do that because this, for me, is perfect.
Yeah, a lot of other people prefer the kind of guillotine methods. We have a butterfly one here by Calibri. We have a single blade movement one here by Cigar. Some people find these a lot easier to control, but I personally prefer the scissors. Anyway, moving on, we have the V-cut. So, Charles, what is the benefit and drawbacks of a V-cut?
There are lots of different schools of thought regarding the V-cut. It is really a polarizing cut. I personally really like it, but I am not very good at mastering it 'cause it's very easy to screw up. One of the benefits is by doing this V-cut shape, which is a chunk effectively out of your cigar like so.
I'll probably demonstrate it quick. So I have this desktop one, and this one's actually fairly easy. I won't lick it for purposes of demonstration, but you can just see here that you just place the cigar in the hole, and then you literally pop down, and there you have a nice even cut through. I've even heard guys say they prefer the V-cut because they feel like they don't get a lot of like loose tobacco. So you can see in this ashtray here that there's like a load of floaters that have kind of exploded out from when we've used the cut, as where this, there's nothing. It's actually pretty clean. There's only a little bit of tobacco debris, and some guys don't like that. Also, it reduces, a lot of the time you have a guard on a V cutter, such as this one, as where like a guillotine you can go all the way through, you can chop as deep as you want, so
exactly.
It kind of creates that perfect cut. It's kind of, it's actually, I think most guys find it more simple.
It is much simpler, but you just have to remember to press, otherwise you're just going to get a little dim. Another benefit is that apparently on the edge, on the sides here, there's the tar that builds up rather than smoking that, so you don't get the bitterness and you don't get all sort of the build-up of tar when you're actually smoking a cigar.
I know our very own Trevor Gilday here likes a double V cut to create
X-cut.
the X cut. So we're going to see if we can master it without him here. So here we go. I'm lined up.
If you find the V-cut too tight, you can then just double it up like this, and you have a much looser draw. Now, some may argue that this is heresy.
A bit extreme. But anyway, that is an option for you guys out there anyway. So, anyway, we want to make this video half an hour, so we're going to carry on to probably the third most common method, which is the punch cut. So
the punch cut is very simple and super convenient. These things you can carry on a keychain. I've got one on my house keys, for example. Whenever I go out and somebody offers me a cigar, I decide, oh, I'd like a cigar. I realise, well, I've got a cutter on me, so it's absolutely fine.
Well, that's similar for me with these scissors. I mean, I fold these up. When I'm wearing a waistcoat, I actually use it on the double end of my Albert chain and pop it in there. So I find these just as convenient. But what are the benefits to the draw? Maybe accumulation of tar, if you could explain that to the viewers.
Well, just like the V-cut, you do get this accumulation of tar, which means you don't take it in. Some say it increases bitterness, some say it decreases it. It's really difficult to say, so it's going to be a question of personal preference. But one of the greatest benefits of this, aside of its convenience and just having it in your pocket all the time, is that it is super easy to do. You can do this on almost any ring gauge cigar. If your cigar is much too big to fit in a guillotine, you can just get one of these out and do several punches. So let's quickly...
I know there are several companies such as Davidoff and who have a ring gauge punch with 3 different gauges.
Exactly.
And I know some of the Lotus jet flame lighters have a little pull-out punch with 2 different gauges as well. So we just have this Cigar one, which is one standard kind of ring gauge of punch. But you can increase or decrease the hole size depending on what instrument you're going to be using here.
So all you do is apply a little bit of pressure onto the center of the cap, and you twist until the punch sinks into the cigar's head. Now then you pull it out, and you have the cap inside here, so you can flick that out when you close it, and you have a cut cigar.
Nice.
Super ideal. And if it's too tight for you, you just do another one on the side, just above, until you have the perfect
I've even
draw.
heard guys on kind of these Perfecto or torpedo size ones, instead of doing the punch directly on the end of the cigar, they actually enter to the side of the cigar.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
That's crazy.
Again, but moving on to odd shaped cigars such as this little Camacho Perfecto here. I mean, I would personally, I'm probably just going to straight guillotine it, but I know, Charles-Philippe, you have your own method for cutting these kind of cigars.
Well, I don't like the tight draw on Perfectos. When you cut, either you cut too high and the draw is way too tight, either you cut too low, and the flag leaf, normally the cap on this is quite low as well, because the makers are aware of this. But if you cut too low, then it's just too much of a draw. So what I like to do is using a guillotine cut. Rather than cut at a straight angle, I cut slightly at an angle like this, and then by snipping here, I have this at a joining angle. This opens up the draw, makes it slightly easier to smoke, and you have the best of both worlds. You don't have something that's too big on a straight cut or too low, and if you feel that it's too tight for any reason, you can just work your way up the cigar. Obviously be bearing in mind that you have some cap, so you can't go too high, but you do have that freedom.
So I think what it basically boils down to is a lot of personal preference.
Oh yeah.
In reality, we're talking about draw of cigar, which is basically the amount of air you can pull through that cigar. Which the more air, typically the more smoke. You know, obviously that's going to affect the longevity of time of smoke as well. Sometimes it could be convenient of, you're obviously not going to put this in your pocket where the scissors or the punch you may be able to.
Exactly.
In a pinch, as we mentioned earlier, there are several other ways that you could potentially cut a cigar. I know you're in favor of the straight razor cut.
Yes, so we talk about DIY methods. You hear about people cutting them with their teeth. Now, there are some people who are able to master this perfectly, but normally you end up having tobacco salad in your mouth.
It's kind of seen as bad etiquette as well in cigar lounge. Yeah, I mean, in the good old days, like Wild West, chomping it off, no problem. But I mean, these are luxury items. We're talking, you know, 10, 20, 30 bucks potentially for a cigar. And you want to make, that's why we want to always cut above the cap. We don't want to have an unraveling event. And, using your teeth is going to, you know, I suppose, you know, pocket knives, you were saying earlier.
Pocket knives are never or very rarely sharp enough to cut through a cigar. You end up crushing it more than anything else, damaging the wrapper, the binder, and it will fall apart in your hands. But a straight razor or a razor blade, if you're very careful, you can sort of bread knife it through without putting too much pressure, and you can have a really good cut with one of those. I mean, that's what I did. If you look here in the video of the biggest cigar that we'd ever smoked,
Figurados,
which was absolutely crazy, but there was nothing I had in my
Joel
arsenal.
actually did get it the right to vote in the end. He petitioned in France, and you know what those guys are like. But anyway,
Centre of Human Rights.
So yeah, I mean, there are different ways to do it. I mean, there's the match through the end. Again, that's a kind of a quasi punch method.
And it's but the match is so
the
small.
The draw
so
is like impossible.
It can be quite painful.
You know, so you know, we definitely recommend getting the right tool for the job, even if it's one of these couple of dollar cutters or for free at your cigar bar for a basic guillotine. I think this sort of thing's around 100. I mean, we have a Cigar lighter and cutter combo. I think that's just over 100. We're looking at 50 bucks. Probably 40 bucks, you know, 40, 50 bucks. I mean, again, if you know, explore with different methods and then maybe go for something a bit more. So if a friend's got a V cutter, maybe ask to borrow it and then try a few cigars, see how you like the draw. Maybe you like, you know, a different kind of cut on a Perfecto or a Torpedo than you do on a kind of regular, you know, shaped cigar. So just kind of experiment with it. Everyone experiences cigars differently. Everyone enjoys them in different ways, different flavor profiles, different times of day. You might want more smoke, less smoke, who knows. So it's good to have, you know, here at the studio we have pretty much every option under the sun. On like a standard Parejo cigar such as this, I'm typically going to favor the straight cut personally. And if we want to, what is it, Figurado type of cigar, one that domes in, I'm usually going to start with a straight guillotine cut and then maybe angle it like you do off the bat. You know, with the guillotine. I've tried punch, I've tried V-cut. Sometimes I just mess around with them just to see, especially a cigar I smoke often, to see if it changes the flavor profile. But that's the ones I'm going to typically rely on. Charles-Philippe, what are your favorite cuts?
Well, for me, it really depends on the Vitola. So with a typical Parejo, I'm going to do probably a straight cut if I'm in the house. Maybe a V-cut, I really like those. But if I'm out and about, I keep a punch cut on me all the time. When I'm walking the dogs, for example, I'll just do a punch cut and move on. But with a Figurado like this, I do like doing an angle and working my way up until I find that perfect draw. Unlike Paul, I like a little bit or like a, you know, decent resistance when I take in the smoke. So we're very different in that respect. You like quite full of smoke, and I like to fight back.
Which is kind of why I'm kind of a new well smoke kind of guy. I just find the draw on you know, old well Cubans. If people want to wear what we're talking about, or Cuban cigars, a lot of them have a very hard draw. And I do definitely prefer, you know, especially with this Camacho, they're this power band style. I don't want to push Camacho too hard, but I do find the draw nice and light and through. I don't want to like just suck it through like I'm just breathing, but I do prefer a lighter draw. But anyway,
their booking method is well renowned. It's
Yeah.
very, very good.
So anyway, we don't want to go too far down rabbit holes here. So today we covered the three main types of cuts: guillotine, punch, and V-cut. We also talked about some of the other types of cuts and how you may not want to use them and how you should be careful, especially with straight razors. You know, if any of the words or phrases we used in this video are unfamiliar to you guys, we have additional videos and references below on the cigar anatomy, such as head, cap, foot, vitola, for talking about different cigar sizes and shapes. All of those resources are below. You know, we all have to start somewhere, and we're still on our learning journey here at Bespoke Unit. So with that being said, any of you seasoned experts or even noobs out there have additional questions for us, please feel free to enter them in the comment section below. We always love to see what you guys have to say. Anything constructive is great. Trolls, we love you. Keep them coming. They always make us laugh at the office. So with that being said, my name is Paul Anthony.
I'm CP.
And from all of us here at Bespoke Unit, we'll see you next time.
Take care.